Welcome to another episode of the Circle of Debate podcast. I'm your host, Chris CK1 Kennedy, with your co-host, Matt in the Hat, or Matt Callis.
Or Matt without the hat.
Matt without the hat sometimes. And I am supremely honored to have on someone who was so important to my wrestling fandom as a young child. The hardcore icon, Mr. Just Incredible. I'm going to say real quick, I absolutely, and I probably should have been supervised by adults, but grew up watching the ECW career.
Oh, right on, man.
Oh, yeah. And the quick story behind that was that I was in I think it was high school. I was in ninth grade, and I had one friend who was older who we were both fans, but he had a cable system. He had a cable network that could get East Coast programming. And it was before you guys were on TNN.
Yeah,
he would pass VHS tapes around, and might date our age, but before YouTube, these little plastic tapes you'd have to put in a machine called VCR, and it was basically black. It was like black boxes, man. And the first video I saw was I can't remember exactly what it was, but I think it was you beating the shit out of Tommy Dreamer with the Singapore cane.
Yeah,
one of many times.
Poor Tommy.
Yeah, and once I found out you guys were going national on TNN, which was the national network, which later became Spike TV, I was like, oh shit, I found this was it. I found my home. I'm a fan ever since. Try to keep up as much as I can. I know that there was a main roster run you had, which was awesome, 8-time hardcore champion. And then post WWE career, you had traveled the indies under your actual name, PJ, coming in and out of the Just Incredible character. I think you even went back to Aldo Montoya at one point for a crazy throwback 3 versus 3 match. And I think it was ECPW was the name.
Yeah.
Man, an awesome career, huge fan, but also professional interviewee. So I'm going to get it started right now. The character itself of Just Incredible is such a stretch from, I would assume, your personality, obviously, because Justin is probably the most hated heel in the history of all time ever, with MJF close on your heels. But he doesn't have what I'd say, respectfully, an intergender proclivity for violence also, which was a huge thing in ECW.
It was.
Yeah. But to separate yourself from who you are, PJ, from Just Incredible, did you have to turn it on every night? We heard that C.W. Anderson had to listen to Sandstorm in techno before he went out to transform into that CW character. What was the evolution like? Did you come up with the character? Were you just I have this angst, let me be that guy?
It's really funny. No, I never had to work that hard at it. And it sounds weird, but I was just such a fan of the business. And ECW, Paul Heyman, we worked hand in hand. He came up with the the beginning, the genesis of the Just Incredible character. And I kind of just took it as just an old school heel. He wanted me to just be a jerk, just to be somebody that can get under everybody's skin. I didn't have to turn it on. No, the fans, let me tell you this, the biggest factor, I think, in ECW, one of the greatest successes for ECW were the fans, because the fans kind of were the thing that made it all work. It made it kind of just gel together, because you could feed off of those fans, and they knew it was a work. They knew it was all good fun, but they came every time we were there. They came ready to kind of play. They played with us, and it just made it an easy exchange. You know what I'm saying? It was just very natural. And
having never been able to have gone to the ECW arena on Wolf Street. It's on Wolf Street, I believe, right? Is that where it was? I've Googled it.
Oh my God, where is it? Swanson and Richter.
Okay, gotcha. That was Mecca for me, but being a fan who's 14 in LA, never got the chance to go out there, but I understood the fans, and they were original. I mean, I want to call them probably the evolution of the Smart, which is the Smart Mark.
Yes.
They knew the business. They appreciated and respected hard work, whether or not you were a heel or a face, but they were not afraid to let you know. And they invented, you cannot tell me they did not invent the "you fucked up" chant.
Yes, they did.
It has to
Absolutely.
be the ECW arena, the inception of every embarrassing moment. They would call you out on it.
Yep.
And I'll harp back real quick to the C.W. Anderson interview, where he would know 2 seconds into any kind of even the minorest of botches, he's like, okay, and that chant's coming in 2, 1, you fucked up.
Yeah.
So there was that added pressure to be performing in front of literally the smartest fans that the company or the business had ever seen at that point.
Yeah, it really was. But it also, if you played along with them, like I would do stuff like if I kind of felt the room really early on, and my advantage was, I think, and still to this day, being the fact that I was in the WWF at the time before I came to ECW, I had been through, 3 or 4 years of worldwide touring, knowing, I did 2 Royal Rumbles prior and, kind of traveled the world. I
you
kind of
Gilbert.
knew, hey, that's something.
Over the man.
But, all kidding aside, like, you kind of got to feel out like, okay, I felt the room. And like, if fans started chanting, oh, you had a jock strap or you did this or that, I would kind of say, like, I would literally look off hard camera and say, yeah, hey, I'm just doing my best, and give them like a little, I wouldn't make heel at him. I'd kind of like, yeah, you're right. Like self-deprecating humor. And they'd laugh at it and be like, oh, he's cool. Like, so it kind of just, I grew with them. And like I said, if you were good to them and if you performed, that's all they wanted. They just wanted to be part of the gag. And it just became like a really cool relationship with those guys. And like I said, I don't think ECW or any of us would have been there without them. You know what I'm saying? It was a really cool thing we had with the fans.
Yeah, it was some of the first also, I'm going to say there's a lot of firsts with ECW fans, but crowd interaction from the Sandman entrances to the Kimono Wanalea dancing atop the ECW arena to I think RVD's even had people hold the chair for the Van Terminator that were in the audience. To like catching Spike Dudley from the bit, just you weren't seeing that anywhere, especially in WWF. They were fans, but they were just not even, I don't know if it was like the attitude, for lack of a better word, or the childlike illusion that the next generation, which we're a part of early, was definitely kid centric. It was like a ruthless aggression, but 10-20 years prior,
right?
But literally smashing doors down with the fans, and at some point being able to talk shit back to them. I remember you had Don Marie and the Impact Players at one time, and there was a chant, and it was something like oh God. Okay. We're not an uncensored, we are an uncensored podcast, but this is okay. The chant was, I don't know if you remember this at all. She sucks dick. That was the chant. And Don Marie turns to the crowd and he goes, I do not. And the fact that she acknowledged that chant, well, I was just like, they don't give a fuck. They love this. This has got to be the most, you're either going to be embarrassed and crushed by it, or you're going to own it like you did. And coming from, a background where, like you said, in WWF, where you may have been mocked off camera or, and only being able to address it a little bit had to have conditioned you for sure. Did everyone adapt to that in the locker room, or people go backstage like, why are they booing me? Why did they chant you fucked up? Like, did people have to really learn to deal with that?
They did, some better than others. Like, I just was, this was one of my heroes in the business, and I was friends with them. Shawn Michaels. I knew Shawn. I helped Shawn when he first retired in his wrestling school. I was actually part of the class that he put out with Daniel Bryan. In 1999, I went down to San Antonio to help him. And I always loved Shawn for many reasons, not the dickish reasons that exist, but for the reasons of like, he broke a lot of barriers with that stuff, like kind of breaking kayfabe in ways. And I was like, look, if wrestling is moving, it is growing. And if you kind of can acknowledge in some way, what's going on, fans will at least appreciate your honesty. And then that's all it really was. And it wasn't even as hard as it sounds. Like, you're making it sound like it was like, it wasn't that hard. Okay. I think the fans were they were dying to just be a part of it. And I think they wanted to love everybody. They just wanted, on a Saturday night, they wanted to get drunk, pack into a bingo hall and say some effed up shit. You know what I'm saying? And just have fun. And because wrestling, we all knew the joke. We all knew, but they also respected the fact that we were hurting each other in ways, trying to make it look like, it was like for the art form, we were all respect. It was like a certain respect we would give one another as fans and as performers. And as I know, it's a crazy world when you say it like that, but I think towards the end, especially, fans understood like these guys are really working hard to entertain us, and we're going to give back, you know, to them, what we're getting, because it was like nothing else anybody's ever seen, and it was just I don't think we'll ever see that again, unfortunately. Because of lawsuits and so many other things, in the world we live in today, right?
Yeah.
With
different culture.
Different culture. And a lot of the things we did were like, a bit unethical in some ways. I couldn't hit somebody with a female with a kendo stick, even though back then, I mean, all the parties were agreeing I'm playing a character, no different than somebody may play in a movie.
I compare to that all the time. It's a live action stunt show. People go, wrestling's fake. I'm like, well, there's a joke. Well, Tobey Maguire isn't really Spider-Man. Like, do you think people think he can shoot webs out of his hands? Like, we know.
But you're held to that standard though. And like, if I were to, do violence against a woman, then maybe they wouldn't come down on me because I'm playing a part, or and obviously everyone, including whoever I was working with, Francine, Dawn Marie, whomever, they were we all agreed to it, and we all kept it as safe as possible. Believe me, I never hurt anybody, believe it or not. I was very careful out there, but but still, it would be ECW would have gotten the blame of we're trying to promote violence against women. It was just, listen, it was almost like, it was just craziness. That's all it was. It was just trying to get a pop. You know what I mean? And unfortunately, we've lost that almost sense of humor. We weren't afraid, like, because look, the ECW arena was 18 to 20 something year old guys that were horny on a Saturday night, and they loved to see beautiful women. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's why there's
and
blood.
Yeah.
So what a perfect and good music too, because we were using all kinds
I can't wait to get into that, brother. We're gonna talk about
of music from the time of that time period, and where nobody else was doing it. Music and wrestling have a huge correlation. So it was just like, we were just kind of giving the fans what they wanted and having fun with it, and everybody was quite happy. But if you would do it today in this politically correct environment where it's like the cancel culture and everything is so quiet, we couldn't pull that off, and it's a shame. I mean, I get it, times are progressing, but it was just wrestling. It was just good fun, and I wish we could just not take things so seriously for a moment and just like enjoy like some of the simpler things. You know what I mean?
Got it. Yeah, for sure.
I gotta say that, like, I guess where you kind of played into like my experience was like I would watch Sunday Night Heat on a Sunday night, and during the summertime, and Simpsons was a rerun, so that's like usually the time I would catch you. So that was like, man, Simpsons is a rerun. Oh, I could watch Just Incredible on Sunday Night Heat tonight, on MTV.
Yeah.
But
that was dope, dude.
So I want to do this with you. I got everything I ever wanted, and I'll never get that back. I know you hate X Factor, but you ain't gotta look at me like that. You ain't gotta look at me like that.
That was to this day, and it's funny you bring that up. And I'll tell you the story real quick. I was friends with Kid Rock during his heyday.
I was gonna ask if you met Uncle Cracker.
Well, no, Cracker and I are like really good friends. His brother, long story short, I'll try to make it short. His brother, Mike, his older brother, Mike, it was my manager at the time. And to this day, like I just talked to him a couple of days ago. As a matter of fact, we just reconnected after a couple of years. And Matt is his real name. Cracker's real name is Matt. And we were all friends. Like I'd go up to Detroit. We'd all go cook out up by the lake where, with Bob, Kid Rock, and we'd all hang out. So we were all friends. And when X Factor was getting together, I was like, Cracker put out his first single album, Double Wide. And it was like, I was like, damn, I hate the way WWE puts out like just generic music. And I knew that was like a great, like that's like a white boy rap hip hop. You know what Kid Rock was about.
Yeah.
Put him up in the sky and say wave goodbye to Miss American Pie.
Right. I mean, but it was cool then. And I was like, and Uncle Cracker just seems like that would be something so people would just hate it, right?
I
So
didn't
I'm like,
even know
dude,
his name was Matt. So like it's
yeah,
one Matt
Matt
singing
Schaefer.
another Matt song.
Yeah, his name is Matt Schaefer, and we were friends, and Stephanie McMahon and Hunter were already kind of leading the charge even at that time, and they were like, yeah, cool, and they gave them a break on the royalty, so we didn't really have to pay all that much. And that was the birth of that song, which actually got a lot of heat and a lot of that's like I hear that a lot, believe it or not.
Yeah, it's one of those songs where as soon as it plays, the crowd boos.
Yo, you dealing with the X Factor.
Yeah, it was just funny, and that's what it was meant to be. Like, oh, these guys again, really, So,
and I kind of took a risk with that because I wasn't sure how you were gonna react. Whether you
I think that's great. Oh,
yeah,
no, that's awesome, dude.
That's what I kept a secret. Like I've been thinking about this since like 3 days ago. Okay, it's like we're interviewing Justin Credible. I have to sing X Factor to him.
Oh, that's awesome. And actually, believe it or not, Dan, if you go back and listen, that's not a bad album at all. So
it kicks ass.
Uncle Cracker, watch it on Spotify, iTunes, wherever you find music.
Yeah,
I gotta tell you, baby, life's been good to me.
And he had that big hit too. What was that one?
It was his first one. I can hear
wanna
it.
be if you could marry me. You
Yeah,
ain't got nobody
that's right.
else like me.
Follow me.
Yeah, follow me.
Dude. That's a throwback for sure.
Yep.
I'll throw it one back from that theme song to your original ECW theme song in that entire era you were talking about.
Yep.
Everybody had a heavy metal track except for the Gangstas, which had
Ice Cube.
Ice Cube, and it was like the lyricless version that was playing through the entire match, which is insane. I love that. But you came out to Prong, Lance Storm came out to White Zombie. No one else was doing that. I went out and bought that ECW hardcore soundtrack, which at the time I wasn't. I was still young, so I was still finding my music life. I was going from like Nirvana was my favorite band, and I was going heavier and heavier. My dad got me into Van Halen, then Metallica, and that album comes out, and I listened to the whole thing start to finish, and I love every song on there, but I don't know that those are not the originals.
Oh, really? Yeah.
So when I hear RVD's Walk by Kilgore,
Pantera,
I think that's the original version because I don't know any better because there's really no internet. I hate saying this is like 98, 99.
Yeah, no, that's the truth though, right?
Yeah, so I don't know that any of these are covers. And I really like that Kilgore version of Walk. And then when I heard the Pantera version, I was like, what's this? This isn't as good as the original. I was so bass backwards on my metal, like, what's the word? Trial by fire, I guess you would say, indoctrination into the genre.
Yep.
But it was not only ECW that got me into hardcore wrestling as a fan, and eventually a small part of my life was dedicated to wrestling back then, but also like opening the doors to metal itself. And the fact that I can name almost everybody's theme songs and then who did the covers of them says a lot about what that roster's soundtrack would be.
Yeah, soundtrack would be fit, yeah.
Yeah, and you had Prong, Snap Your Fingers, Snap Your Neck, which got me into Prong. And a quick story about myself is I was in a band 15 years later who has a singer who's a friend with a guy who's our age. I was probably 26 at the time. And she's like, oh, this is my friend who's a drummer. We're going to have him try out for our band. This is Art. I'm like, oh, nice to meet you, Art. He's like, yeah, I was going to try out for you guys, but I kind of joined Prong. And I'm like, what the fuck?
Oh, wow.
I'm like, I hear your music come out. I'm like, Snap Your Fingers, Snap Your Neck Prong? Like, is there any other Prong? It's like, oh, yeah, you heard of them. I'm like, kind of, yeah, I've heard of them. It's a gentleman named Art Cruz, who now, local boy from Downey, California, just like a suburb of Los Angeles, he's now the drummer for Lamb of God, which is one of the biggest metal bands ever, and my favorite metal band of all time. But just how my life is so interwoven with just being a fan of not just yours, but the entire, 98, the unbastardization of ECW, the pre-main roster, which, that's my own opinion. If people were happy, that's all good. I have no say in the matter. But it just, it's so embedded into my life that even this conversation we're having right now, I can bring up the music and how I fell in love with metal just because of that. I remember hearing Doon, 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 Extreme. Like as soon as I hear that, I get chills every time.
It meant so much, dude. It meant so much. And to me, since WWF got there, and I know this is going to sound wicked corny, but even when they got the rock and wrestling thing with Cyndi Lauper, right? They were on to something even in those days, because real music and professional wrestling have some kind of, like, I remember watching Dusty Rhodes come out to like Hank Williams Jr., because that was just his vibe back then, in like early mid 80s. And it worked. And like music and wrestling just have something, because when we all travel, we'll go down the road listening to all kinds of road songs, just like whatever, Skinner, to anything you could listen to. That's like, we're on because that's our life. We're on the road. We're really very similar to a lot of the rock and roll music industry, and it's very interconnected in some weird way. And Paul Heyman was smart enough to recognize it and try to bring that together in some way. And he did a fantastic job, because if you listen to some of those ECW commercials, he would play like really diverse stuff too. You know what I mean? I mean, he was all over. I mean, he had hip hop on there. We had Wu-Tang Clan. I mean, I met
Public
Method
Enemy
Man.
Also came out with the, I think it was, was it Hip Hop Array or something like that?
It was something like that.
Yeah, it was very crowd interactive, which was, I mean, obviously we just talked about how interactive that crowd was. Did he come up with it? Was like, here's your theme song, or did you guys run ideas?
Oh, he came up with all of that. No, it was all him.
He picked everybody's theme song. You're telling me
he picked everything.
How this is going to sound a little rhetorical, but he picked Sandman's theme song.
Yes. Oh yeah.
Jesus Christ.
He did all of it. I had no idea what
Sandman, that was his gimmick. His gimmick wasn't originally a metal guy. It was a surfer dude.
Yeah.
It was, the Sandman was because he was on the beach, not because he listened to Metallica and drank beer all day long.
Right.
But that one, just change it just 1% into a heavy metal guy, and you have the perfect song that is only 5 or 6 years out of the record. And he was, I would say, the taste genius in just picking everyone's songs. That's insane.
Yeah.
It all worked.
It just, he was very good at feeling what was happening in pop culture. That's one thing. Is Paul is I mean, he's a fat Jewish kid from New York City. That's the bottom line. But he knew what was happening, and he was very good at it, and he's a weird genius. He's a crazy motherfucker, dude.
Yeah.
And I mean, I can go on and on about some weird Paul Heyman stories, but
I'll say Paul successfully brought over like people from different demographics, because growing up in like the 90s, like my household was mostly like top 40 and hip hop. And it wasn't until I was downloading ECW matches on Kazaa, that I got into heavy metal, and right, look at me now. I've got all those guitars behind me. So, I'll say
great, man.
You guys led to that. So
that's really cool.
It brings me to this question, though, because I've been asking a lot of wrestlers this question. What's your favorite song to sing at karaoke if you ever go?
Oh, wow.
God damn,
that's a loaded question, dude.
It's like, what song do you like to sing, and what song are you good at singing? Or two different vibes.
Yeah, I don't think I'm good at singing anything, but I will say, wow, hold on, let me think here. Oh, I would have to say it would be a Linkin Park song, because I could
nice.
I love Linkin Park, and Chester is like one of my idols. But I'm trying to think. It'd probably be something slower.
In the end, or
in the end's like their ballad for sure, or
Paper Cut. There must have been an ECW compilation with Paper Cut. Forfeit the game.
Yeah. Yeah, but I didn't have a Shinoda, so. But whatever. But that was like my stuff. I love music, dude. And believe it or not, here's a quick note. Billy Corgan, lead singer, Grammy Award winner for Smashing Pumpkins. He's a great personal friend of mine. I talk to him all the time. And
NWA.
I was the first person to bring him into the locker room. I befriended him outside of wrestling, and he came to New York to see an ECW show. We met in Chicago, which is his home territory, in 1999. I think it was Anarchy Rules, where I wrestled Sabu. And there's a picture of me and Billy where I was bleeding profusely, and like Billy was ready to leave, and he's like, I want a picture with Just Incredible. So I throw some tape over my head. So there's like a picture out there somewhere in my social media where it's like me and Billy meet.
Probably find that right now. Give me a second.
It's like me and Billy meet for the first time, and then like I brought him into the fold of professional wrestling, and he fell in love with it. He was always a fan. Yeah. And to this day, we talk, and I will probably make an appearance at some point in the National Wrestling Alliance when I can get my fat ass into shape.
That's an exclusive. That's not a prediction. That's a spoiler.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, man, that is just right there. That is just how much just that whole scene, I guess you would call it, affected everyone on this podcast. We have two other hosts that, have the day job, so they couldn't make it, but we all constantly, just whenever we bring up ECW, you know what we're talking about. We're talking about that 97 to 99 living basically Anarchy Rules.
All four of us actually are musicians though too.
Yeah. Oh, right on. Really?
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I play rhythm guitar, by the way.
What?
Yeah, I play guitar. Yeah.
Oh, nice. What have you got? What's in your arsenal?
Hold on, let me go look.
Mine are all right here, but I can't pick up my monitor and spin it. I got mine.
What do I have in my home? I have a little Gibson Les Paul.
Ooh, that's a special right there. LP special. Hell yeah.
I got mine.
That's
nice. You got a fire.
Oh, nice. That's a nice piece.
I got mine nearby, and then Chris has his.
Mine are over here. I got a couple of ESPs in various colors. I like their style and their look.
And then our other co-hosts are both drummers. So
nice.
Yeah,
it's hard to come by. It's hard to come by.
Musicians. They just hit stuff.
Yeah, they just hit stuff.
So since the main roster, I know you've done your best to stay busy, coming in and out of the indie circuit, working under the Just Incredible name. I know you were at Hardcore Justice, which was a TNA event, I believe.
Yep.
Where you had to go under the PJ Polacco name for legal reasons at the time. We're glad you now own every ounce of your name as possible.
Everything Just Incredible is mine.
Hell yeah. I know you haven't wrestled in a few years. Has it only been like 2 or 3 years since that?
Oh no, I've wrestled. I wrestled this year actually in Texas. I've been wrestling. It's just, small indies,
Right.
Just to kind of pay the bills really. And with COVID, it's been less and less, not by my choice, but
right.
I'm 47. So I would honestly, I'd like to get back into shape and just give it a farewell tour, even though I've done one of those before. But if you're, man, it's so hard to stay out of it because you love it so much. Yeah. And I'm actually not, physically, I'm blessed. I've never had surgery ever in my life, which is a positive, even though you're always in pain, but I move around quite well for somebody. I'm probably 50 pounds overweight right now. So if I can get myself into shape with maybe some DDP yoga, Dallas has been helping me. I can get, when COVID ends, hopefully sooner than later, and wrestling starts kicking up again. If there'd be a place to go, it'd be NWA for me, and maybe just do something more for fun, not to like make a ton of money, just something to creaely just do and kind of hang my hat on.
Go out on your own terms, I guess you could say, because I know
exactly,
a lot of wrestlers that thought they were, you say that a wrestler can retire 10 times before. I mean, look at Terry Funk, man, 15 retirements, Ric Flair 20.
Buddha is still going.
Yeah, stepped away for a little bit and came back in the best shape of his life, running a school, performing.
He looks great, by the way, too.
Dude, I could barely recognize him. If you didn't tell me that was CW, I'd be like,
yeah, he looks amazing. Best he's ever looked.
Younger brother, I guess. Yeah, he dropped like 90 pounds on just. We talked in his interview about what led to his better lifestyle, and he had a catalyst for all that. And I'm absolutely proud of someone who I've never met and a fan of for taking those steps.
I'd love to hear that, actually. Where is that in a podcast?
Yeah, that's still us. That's
you guys?
Podcast.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's about a month old right now. And he goes into detail about what his turnaround was. And he's living literally the best life he's ever lived. And
that's
it was
awesome.
Great to hear.
Yeah.
It sucks that he had to go through some things to get him there. But sometimes you have that, not that he had to come to Jesus moment, but a parallel to that, perhaps. I don't know his religious views because that's really not our programming.
Right.
But you say that your relationship with Corgan, is that door open, or is it a, hey, I'm ready, what do you need me to do to come and work for you?
Oh no, the door's open. We spoke actually. I put out a tweet when or not a tweet, an Instagram post when WWE put out you can't slap your leg on super kicks or kicks, and I put it out.
The company that invented slapping your leg on super kicks.
I know, right?
Fucking
and
no offense
to
Shawn, but yeah, we can.
I know, right? I know, and and he messaged me. He's like, blah blah blah. I thought that was hilarious, and I called him, and he's like, well, when are you going to come down and have some fun with us? And I'm like, well, whenever I can get my fat ass in gear. It was the response, and they're ready to start up. So I would honestly say at some point, I would like to actually go down on my birthday. I turn 48 October 16th. So I think I can get myself in some shape, but there's no timetable. It's all just like when it's ready. Like I said, it's not going to be some big monumental thing. I just want to kind of, just to have fun with it and see where I am. Because there's still a lot left I have to do. And I love this business so much. And I see so much greatness in the young men and women that are out there doing it. But there's also a lack of, in some ways, I don't know, man, there's a lack of real, like there's very few. There's John Moxley, who's really doing it from a very different perspective. It's like, I always gravitated more to the punk rock kind of guys. Because that's what ECW.
You were a legendary anti-hero. I mean.
Exactly. And if I'm going to do it, I want to do it like that. I want to be, more of that. And I know Mox is like, I look up to him now. I mean, he's leading the charge and he's so great at what he does. And guys like that, because for as many of those guys that are so great, we're also in this business, we're losing a lot of the maybe fundamentals. Like I see so much sloppy stuff like AEW. I've watched every single AEW Dynamite to my dismay sometimes.
Yeah. I'm a huge fanboy. No,
I am too. No, I'm a huge fan, but I've watched literally every episode because I do a review show every Friday, and I see so much potential, but I also see guys like, cutting some corners, and like I just want to like say, hey guys, like just like kind of like, this is still how you could innovate, and it's like it's not my time, it's your time, but this is how it's done. Kind of like just bring back that old school, because Terry Funk at 47 years old was when he became ECW champion. And think about that. That was in 1996, 97 when he had that run in ECW that rejuvenated his career and led him to, he was 47 years old. He's my age today. And no, I do not have those kinds of ambitions, nor am I Terry Funk. But it just goes to show you that as long as if you got it here and you could there's always a way in professional wrestling. You know what I mean? It's just like a lot of things are open today, especially with social media, especially with ways we could connect and communicate. I just find it exciting. And, as long as my heart's in it, as long as I love it as much as I do, I just want to have fun with it and just be out there doing it as much as I can until the day I can't. If that makes sense.
Absolutely.
I want to draw attention to what's directly behind you.
Because
I usually ask some wrestlers if they're fans of anime, but you already answered my question just right. What, like having that Dragon Ballz?
Yeah.
What animes are you a fan of aside from DBZ?
This is actually, hold on real quick.
My Hero Academia.
Yeah.
And a lot of DBZ.
Yeah. That's my son's little room here. It's kind of like our little office space. So I just watch what he watches. He kind of smartens me up. So he has a lot of comics, a lot of graphic novels.
Manga.
And I just kind of, yeah. Like actually, we have a bunch of them right there.
The manga
Naruto. Yeah. So I just kind of like anything to kind of like connect with the little man.
This is my way of putting this interview in the Legends of Galactic Heroes group, but I'm currently recommending Legends of the Galactic Heroes to Justin Credible and his son.
Okay. Right on, dude. I'll check that out, seriously.
So
seriously, check that out, dude. That's cool.
Yeah, it's like 120 episodes long, and it's like a very like serious, like bloody, war in outer space, and it's like it's my favorite anime of all time. So
oh wow,
I'm recommending that to you as a gift, as my virtual gift to you.
No, I'll definitely check that out. You have my word. Next time we talk, and hopefully we can do this again, I will have some info and drop some knowledge on you. Hopefully,
Nice.
Legends of the Galactic Heroes. I'm
Yep.
posting this in the group once
absolutely.
this episode drops. But yeah, Chris,
definitely.
Are we allowed to ask your son's age? Is that okay?
Of course. He's 14.
Oh my God, he was my age when I was watching you. So at what point does he find out that my dad is just incredible? Does he go back and watch tape? Were you waiting for him to be old enough, or is he just not interested?
He's my youngest of three. My oldest is 21. He's a junior and president of his fraternity at Rowan University in New Jersey. These guys were, I mean, like, you know, my oldest, my daughter's 16, my youngest is 14. I mean, they've been going to wrestling shows since they were babies. Like Big Show held all my kids. You know, all my kids have been in locker rooms. So to them, it's just like, Dad, we're going. Like even my 14-year-old who comes with me still because he has to. We had a comic bar, a toy convention this week with Tony Atlas, and he's like, we got to do another one of those. Looks for him, it's like Dad's going to work. It's
so they're jaded about the business. You didn't have to hold.
They don't even watch. They don't know anything about Just Incredible.
Oh man, is that just because they're just sick of being in that sort of
environment? Yeah, I mean, they know I'm a wrestler, but I can't. If you ask them a question about like titles or even watch tape, they probably couldn't tell you one thing. And and it's actually pisses me off because it's like, hey man, I used to do something. It's like, yeah, Dad, nobody cares. Like when his buddies come over, I'm like, hey, you want me to put on some? No, Dad, you're embarrassing me.
Here's the time that I won the ECW. Well, yeah, whatever. We heard the story. It's like Al Bundy and his 4 touchdowns.
Yes.
And how Kelly and Bud Bundy were like, "Shut up, Dad."
Yep,
Bro,
that's exactly it.
That's a reference that so few will get, but I knew you would get that one.
Polk High School.
4 touchdowns, 1 game. We know, Al, shut up. Yeah, I completely understand because my very small, and I say this to not sound like that guy, my very small wrestling career 20 years ago, whenever someone has a relevant story that I can share about my career, I make sure that I don't sound like that guy who's talking about his glory days.
Yeah.
Like,
your first match against Samoa Joe. Yeah.
Like my first match was Samoa Joe. I trained with Excalibur, Super Dragon, and all these people.
Oh, did you really?
Me and Scorpion, I was Guynero Uno. Scorpio Sky was like Guynero Dos. So okay. But just even talking about it now.
I'll point it out for you, Chris, so you don't have to bring it up yourself.
Like talking about it now, I'm not trying to make myself sound cool. I'm not like, I used to be a wrestler. Go look at me. Like, no, I fucking sucked.
And the funny thing I'll tell you, Justin, is that I've known Chris for like 7 or 8 years, and I didn't know he was a wrestler until like a few months ago.
Yeah, because they never talked about it because there was no footage of it. Because back then it was Super 8s before there was cell phones.
Right.
I recently found a video on YouTube, and I mean, I trained for a year, and I was 16, and I was definitely way under skilled, I guess, with the people. I mean, Super Dragon, Excalibur. A few more big names that I consider big. Everyone who ran PWG, Pro Wrestling Guerrilla.
Yeah.
Before that was a company that was my center, but yeah,
that's pretty big though, man. That was pretty big.
It was huge, but I got out before that happened, so I missed that second wave or that first.
I gotcha.
That first wave of SoCal wrestling that blew the fuck up, and now any name that's ever mattered ever has gone through PWG, and I mean, like. The Young Bucks were trained by the same guy that trained me, Ron Rivera, American Wild Child.
Yeah, I know Ron Rivera.
Yeah, and I never want to have. I don't have this feeling of like, oh, that should have been me. There's a joke that like it should have been me, but no, like I don't. I would have liked to have stuck with it.
It could have been a contender, Rocky.
Yeah, right? Like I live a block away from like Championship Wrestling in Hollywood and Millennium Wrestling in Woodland Hills, but like I don't. I would love to get back to it, but I don't have this like. I really missed out on something. I don't have this big hole in my soul of regret. Just this little story I just told you, but I don't do it to look cool. It's just relevant to when someone brings it up.
Of course, yeah.
And you're talking about coming back because obviously that retirement void is never filled. I don't think any wrestler that I can think of who's ever retired once, besides pending injury, has actually stayed out of the ring.
It's hard.
Yeah. What is it that you have left to accomplish? Is there a title you want? Is there a match? There's someone out there you're like, man, I got one more with Dreamer who's pseudo active in Impact right now.
No, there really isn't. I believe it or not, I had my last retirement match was in like 2016, and it was against Tommy at a famous famous place here in the East Coast, Starland Ballroom, where a lot of big acts play, like Bon Jovi played there, and a lot of punk bands played there.
Outdoor? No, it's not an outdoor arena. I'm thinking of somewhere else.
No, it's like a 1,000 arena, like 1,000 venue, like seat venue. It's a club, but like all starters, like my wife's a Jersey girl.
Oh, is that like Ruby Riot train? Is that a wrestling facility also, like training facility?
Yeah.
Ruby Riot came out of there.
Yeah,
I recognize these shots.
So yeah, it's just like, I to me, it's not one thing. It's just, I love to perform, man. There's nothing, and it's not about getting the cheers, but there's nothing like, I don't know how these kids are doing it, wrestling in front of no fans, because to me, the biggest rush is being able to, like, if you're on stage, I always wanted to be a rock star, but I didn't have the chops. The biggest thing is to have an audience and to command that audience. That's the biggest high, and there's nothing that fulfills you like that. So just to be able to perform, and just have that feeling is so cool and it's so much fun. And like the older I get, believe it or not, you always are in some weird way getting better, at least with psychology. So like I go out there and I'm like, I usually call everything out there in the ring, and I'm able to just have so much fun. Like the last match I had was probably a month ago, in the Dallas Fort Worth, Texas area, and Mark Henry was there. He didn't wrestle; he had an appearance. A couple of a couple of big people were there, and I wrestled some kid from Canada, Blood Hunter. I don't know if you know who he is, but anywho,
not yet. There's a lot of guys, so yeah.
No, but he's actually one of those kids that are coming up. But anyways. And it was and Kevin Sullivan, the actual WCW Kevin Sullivan was there. He was booking the territory. They have like a little
face paint and everything.
Yeah,
he does. Right? Yeah.
Yeah, he books for them. They actually have a show on CW on Saturday mornings, like locally. So, but anyways, it was cool just to get out there again and just to just interact with fans. Like I miss that vibe. I miss wrestling in front of live crowds. I love live events. I miss concerts, dude.
Oh, bro.
Talking about like being a rock star and wrestling. So, what's the story with the match with Rob Zombie?
Did
I read that wrong? Was it?
Oh no, Rob Zombie's not Ron Zombie.
Oh,
there's
my mind.
Yeah.
I guess my eyes must have been blurry this morning.
Well, the director Rob Zombie lives in Connecticut, where I live. But there is a guy that looks just like him, who's actually a really successful, in the East Coast, he was successful, called Ron Zombie, that looks just like him. He does he looks like Cactus Jack and Rob Zombie if you put them together.
Wow.
So that's who, not.
Oh, shit.
So technically,
you could not have described him any better than that. I'm looking at a picture of him with a barbed wire bat.
Yeah,
it's kind of like Kid Cash and Kid Rock,
He looks exactly like Balls Mahoney if he shed 190 pounds. Holy shit.
He's a good worker, that kid. Actually, he was a good worker. But that's who it was. I wasn't that lucky.
Well, it's like Kid Cash and Kid Rock. It's
right.
It's in the face.
Yep.
That original Kid Cash, even ECW, man.
Oh my god,
it was uncanny. Like whoever gave him that name, if that wasn't him, fucking stroke of genius, because he carried.
Yeah, I think that was Heyman. I think that was Heyman's idea.
Of course it was, because Heyman, as far as I understand, he was the king of developing talent, where Vince was the king of, I don't know, I don't want to say exploiting talent, taking talent that existed and pushing it further, I guess.
Right. Yeah.
I never worked for either one of those people, so I have no real say in the matter. With you being, I don't know if I'd say BFFs with either one of them, but
no.
No. But yeah, shows, man. Like, I tried watching Impact recently because it became, I guess, in the zeitgeist more relevant than the later era TNA. But they weren't doing the audience, which is not their problem, not their fault. But they also weren't doing the crowd noise pumped in.
Yeah,
so
it's rough, right?
You could hear the ring squeak. You could hear the ref's footsteps.
Yeah,
I could not vibe with it, and I can't imagine playing I'm in rock and metal are my bread and butter, especially when I play live shows. and I've played dive bars to my best friends and their girlfriends, and then I've played House of Blues in front of 3,000 people and everything in between. And you will always at a music show get the dude who's at the bar, arms folded, just waiting to be impressed. No one's coming up to the stage to enjoy the show.
Yep.
And so you aren't feeling that energy on stage. You're like, why should I jump around and headbang and if they aren't willing to jump around and mosh? So to wrestle in front of literally just the cameraman and the gorilla position, like just, I know you have to do it because it's your job, but like you have to, there's some spark that just isn't, I can't imagine
it's not
just
there.
Not being there at all.
No, I can't imagine how they do it because you're missing a huge, I mean, wrestling was developed really for the live crowd. And also too, not even to mention from a creative standpoint that it has to affect it, but just wrestling in an empty arena like that, there's no adrenaline. Because really, if something goes wrong, right, in front of 10,000 people or however many thousand people, you have to go with it. And if you're wrestling in a match for TNA or Impact was what they call it now, and you guys screw up real bad, you could just say, hey, cut it right there, redo it.
Doing that original NXT when they were having the trainees, I think they are still just having the trainees as fans. Were almost criticized for doing that because I know there was a spot where Dexter Lumis did the front flip over the ring or something and broke his leg doing it, but they clipped it so like he had a second take and it didn't look like he fucked himself up. But like I don't understand why. I don't know why that came under scrutiny. If they can do it, freaking do it. There's no take twos in pro wrestling. You above anybody know that you can't say fucking roll it back, do it again.
Well, that's one thing. It's funny when and I used to like, and Vince used to love this shit. This was like when Razor was actually Razor, and we used to do WWF Superstars and Wrestling Challenge. You know, if Razor would mess up or the jobber he was working with messed up, he'd look at the hard camera and he'd literally go to Vince, take two, cut it, do it again, and we'd literally go do the spot again in front of the crowd, which
that's such a Razor thing to do,
right? Like, because he can get away with that. But but I don't think, I mean, in that situation, I don't see the big deal in being a problem. But it just takes away from the urgency, the fun, exactly the word I had said first, urgency. It's just not, and there's no adrenaline, dude. It's like wrestling at practice. Everything hurts when there's fans. Like, you have that adrenaline and you're not feeling much until afterwards. And it's like, if you're just there with a cameraman and a referee, it's like, everything hurts and you could hear everything. Like, I can't call shit out there. So you have to be, it just takes it away from me. Right, I can't watch Raw or SmackDown. You can't bury
the calls behind the crowd. You can't be like,
nothing.
Go home free. Like, you can't.
Right. Fuck, it's rough. It's rough. Oh, I had a real good one. I almost had the experience of a lifetime, and because of COVID, I got it fucking, well, not just me, but a lot of other people. Last summer, the Smashing Pumpkins were going to open up for Guns N' Roses on a stadium tour, and I was going to go see them at Fenway Park in Boston.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and then literally probably a month before it was supposed to go off, everything shut down and got canceled. And I don't think they're going to be able to do it anytime. I don't think they're going to get to do it at all. So, but music has suffered. Like I said earlier, I miss going to concerts so much because I'm such a fan of music. I mean, I really, that's one thing that I've missed more than anything, even more than wrestling, is just going to shows and just that escape, from that reality for a couple of hours. It's just like, I can't wait till we get back to it
nowadays and stuff. Cause that's kind of, I've been asking wrestlers, like, have you heard the K-pop? Have you heard those DJs, those rappers? And,
you play like Kid Rock and you're like, that's old people music. Let me listen to.
I don't know. I'm embarrassed to actually play that now. Even though, like, privately in my car, I may put that on once in a year, but I still but for me now, I don't. Like, I know my son, my oldest, he's more into, like, just really like hip hop that I just don't get. Like,
it's like modern trap kind of like party stuff.
I don't even know what you call it, but just stuff that just does not, like, it's like, Yeah, I don't even know how to describe it. Just whatever a 21-year-old college kid would be listening to. My 16-year-old daughter plays guitar, and she likes a lot of the stuff I like. I like System of a Down is one of my favorite bands. You know, like I love punk music. I like Green Day. I like I said, Linkin Park, Soundgarden. I'm a 90s kid, dude. That's like really like this stuff that I really like. But I mean, there's all kinds of different stuff I get into. I get into 70s rock too. But yeah, I just can't vibe with today's music. And it's not because it's not good. I just guess I don't know enough about it, or I don't. When you get to a certain age, you just stop exploring as much. If it's not just like in your popular, you know, like, I don't know. It's just weird. Like, we almost shut off at a certain age where it's like, you know, I could get why, like, my parents like, oh, the Beatles were the shit. And I'm like, fuck the Beatles, dude. You know, and now, you know what I mean? And it's like,
that's me. That's me. I worked at Guitar Center for 10 years. So that's me with any classic rock band from Creedence to Zeppelin, the Legends.
Yeah.
I'm just over it. Like, I just can't. If I hear Black Dog one more goddamn time, I'm smashing all my guitars.
Right.
They say it's circular.
It is.
It's like, because there's Beatles, then there's Oasis and Jet, like in the 90s and 2000, and then, you know, it's coming back around again and again and again.
But even for hip hop, like my hip hop, like I like Public Enemy and like, you know, KRS-One and NWA, and, you know, I mean, I'm just, the list goes on, you know, but it just seemed different then. You know, it's like everything that, I guess, because when we were growing up, it just meant more to us, you know. So now they may be better now. Who knows? It's just, but to our ears, it's like, these goddamn kids don't know, you know, they don't know anything. So that's just the way it is.
Dr. Dre, that guy from Loveline?
No. Right.
Justin, I'm really curious about this since you've been reviewing AEW every week, and I'm talking about like new styles of music that people are getting exposed to. I think I'm noticing, because of like Japanese wrestling and stuff like that, you know, I'm actually a big fan of Japanese music. You know, I think that like J-pop has the ability, Japanese music has the ability to infiltrate through wrestling because of, you know, like, I don't know what your thoughts were on like the Maki Ito thing and what, like, her songs and stuff, since you're like paying attention to the AEW product.
I'm not familiar with her songs, but I am familiar with what she does. And I think it actually can get over. I think it can translate. I really do, because it's all in the same, you know what I mean? And it all links together, right? The experience, you know, it's audio, visual, it's everything. So yeah, everybody sings along. Everybody's having fun. Yeah. I think it can get over. I really do, because even with video games, like even video game soundtracks get over to a certain extent. Like, it's just the way your senses correlate to that certain experience. So yeah, absolutely, dude. I certainly think you can get over. And music, it shows even in AEW with, you know, I love Cody Rhodes' music. You know, I love, you know, the Jericho thing is brilliant. So it's like they're on the right track with what they're trying to do. I think they could take it a little further maybe. But you know, they're definitely way ahead of the WWE as far as creative with what they're allowed to do musically. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I see. Like, between the two, like, I don't watch as much main roster as I usually do in the past couple months, but I don't miss a Dynamite or a pay-per-view, and that's just for timing. If I have to pick programming per week with my schedule, AEW is a primary, NXT secondary, and then I'll watch like review shows for main roster. Unless something crazy happens, or like I watch a pay-per-view like a Rumble or whatever. So you were saying that AEW has a lot of good ideas, music being one of them. I seeing WWE coming up with great ideas. There's a lot of good ideas that they've come up with during the pandemic that smaller companies have. Every company's smaller when you compare it to WWE, have borrowed, and then vice versa. I also see a lot of things in AEW. They were the first to move the hard camera from, I don't know, north to east. You know, they put it facing ramp. Right. AEW did that. Vince started doing that. Smart. AEW started doing, some fans, they did the Supertrons. I don't know what the fuck to call those things, the Zoom screens, which is insane. But then also you had WWE with the cinematic matches, which they've got the finances to do very well. But we're now seeing that bleed over into AEW with like the Darby Allin Sting thing with the Taz.
Yep.
You see that becoming, obviously it's got to be a high budget thing. It's definitely more expensive than just getting 4 guys in the ring. But is that a future in pro wrestling? Because it's getting match of the year in some places. Like that Taker AJ thing went over super well. But then some things like the Orton Bray Wyatt Funhouse of Horrors fell, short of the target. The future of that style of wrestling, do you see that being a flash in the pan or more companies doing something like that?
I think in the future you will see more companies doing it. And especially WWE, because Vince for a long time has said, I remember still being there when he said that if he could eliminate the ring completely and still tour, he would, which of course, in pay-per-views, the way you shoot it, you could definitely, but I think it has to do that. But I think it has to, it has to be character driven to have cinematic matches. I think it fit perfectly with Undertaker and his character and the way, and also his age, being able to, maybe cut, and I'm not dissing anybody, it was phenomenal. But being able, I know, no pun intended, actually, but it was very well done. And Sting Darby Allin against Brian Cage and who the hell was the other guy? Ricky Starks. Yeah. That was well done as well. So I just, for me, I would have liked the AEW one better if there was no commentary. I didn't think the commentary should have been.
Oh, in the actual cinematic match.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, I feel you. Yeah. I get that.
But they could, as long as they don't overdo it. But to me, I love live events. I love to see the crowd just popping, because that's when you could really understand. And that's why Rock got so over was, being able to do it. There's a science, the way we were taught, there's a science to pop those crowds as high as they could go. And there's little audibles you could call if the crowd's not doing anything to kind of get them to come up. And I think that there's nothing like, 10, 20, whatever amounts of people for whatever big show standing up, cheering in unison. I don't want to ever go away from that, because that to me is, what pro wrestling for me is. But I could see it definitely having a future, in the next, in however long, as long as it's done, not too, they can't go to the well too many times, once or twice a year.
Sprinkle it in, tasteful, don't overdo it.
When it's right, Yeah. Excuse me.
Force it. I hate when things are forced. There's a lot of storylines on the main roster that I feel are forced. That they seem to not know where it's going to end when they start the direction of the storyline. I don't know how they run things. That might be how they do it. But yeah, cinematic matches, big names. Don't just have it be everybody or anybody running them.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
I got one more question. This is a me question I want to ask before we close it out and let you talk about what you got going on, where people can find you and what you're working on. You talk about how goddamn injury free you've been. And I don't want to get this wrong. 30-year career, close to that.
28. I actually looked it up yesterday because I had to change my Instagram thing, my whatever it's called, your profile. And I was like, it's 28 years, 4 months, and whatever amount of days. So next year on my birthday in October, it'll be 30 years. So I'm like a year and a half away from the Jericho 30.
You can do it. So I got faith.
I definitely will. But I've been lucky. I just, I have had injuries, but the biggest ones were just, I've had like a lot of concussions, unfortunately, which is just as dangerous. But, as far as broken bones and stuff like that, I've managed to somehow be very fortunate, and also worked with a ton of great people.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've been very blessed. I mean, aches and pains, but nothing too serious, and I'm blessed.
Which is great, because I'm glad you're still around, like healthy, physically can move, stuff like that.
Yeah.
The segue for that was I want to talk about just straight up ECW bumps and how you're able to walk away from most of them. I remember the dream cutter off the ladder is iconic. Unfortunately, you did not, you were on the receiving end of that fucking thing, which is brutal in itself.
But that's the thing, is Dreamer had the hard part. He landed on his back. I landed on my belly.
You just had to fall forward, essentially.
Right. Yeah.
Was there a bump that you maybe I could ask a bump you talked yourself or your opponent out of taking, and a bump you did take where you're like, this is going to be the one? Or did you ever second guess something? Were you just like, am I going to jump off of this or not? Or were you like, okay, if I do this, there's a real relevant chance you're going to get hurt, but you're like, this is like in the middle of something. You're like, okay, this is probably going to be the one that fucks me up a little bit.
I did one. I was always super aware of, like, I always knew my strengths and weaknesses very, 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 very early. I was blessed. I don't know how, but I always knew that if I fell forward and landed on my ass, like a front bump, like a hip toss bump or a roll bump. And the one bump that I took was with Jerry Lynn, and I did it all the time with him, was like a Frankensteiner from the top rope, or a Karana, or whatever you call it, from the top rope to the floor through a table. But I knew I could get away. It was scary as it was, because it looks real scary being on the top, going to the floor. But I knew the worst case scenario is I land on my butt, tuck my chin, and like my butt and my heels and my feet land. Not necessarily.
They always tell you make sure your feet,
yes,
the palms of your feet are flat with the surface area.
My biggest problem was going this way, where I got my concussions on like power bomb bumps.
Okay.
So I tried to stay away from anything that would make me go kapow. And I knew that early on, because I had so many concussions from those, that I tried to just do anything but those if I could make sure I was safe. And I just I always knew my strengths, but even better, I knew my weaknesses, and I tried to stay far away. Like, I figured if somebody suggested something I didn't feel comfortable with, I would just be like, God, listen, I can't, I don't think I could do that, but I could do this to make you look good. You know, I wasn't afraid to say, not cool with that, but I can do this over here, and it may be equally as cool. Yeah, I tried to be as smart as I could, you know. That's what I was taught, you know.
Yeah, and it paid off clearly. And before we close it out, the one last question is just curious: is you clearly, obviously, had to have had thousands of stitches. Do you know how many off the top of your hand? Like, can you even fathom?
Never. I don't think I've ever had a stitch.
Are you serious?
A lot of crazy glue.
Fucking crazy glue. Every picture of you that's a promo picture is you know, the iconic pose, the cane, the bleeding. So I'm like, there's no way he's not getting stitched up.
Nope. Look at those. Yeah, those are all they're little razor cuts though. I just poke. And the only one that Sabu had the crazy glue was I was wrestling in a bar in Massachusetts, and me and Raven were literally on top of the bar, and he punched me and I sold, and I didn't realize the ceiling was really low. So I whapped on the cell. I whapped the top of my head on the bar, and Sabu, I knew I had to get stitches, and Sabu literally just said, fuck it. And they just crazy glued it shut. So yeah, those stitches.
I've rarely heard, as big a fan of Sabu, and we know the character is very mysterious. He doesn't speak much in non-shoot interviews. That was pretty good.
Yeah.
Cool, man. This was a lifelong culmination of me not knowing I was going to ever do podcasts 6 months ago. Now here I am interviewing.
Oh, that's awesome.
Mine, man. So Marcus,
so much.
Yeah, we really appreciate this and your time.
Thank you.
We all watch wrestling, whether it's main roster, AEW, or indies. So the moment we know you are going to be in NWA, we will know about it. Like the moment,
watch party.
For sure. Watch party. Definitely. You have social media. We can find you on Instagram at PJ Polacco.
Yep.
We did notice you do Wrestling 101 on YouTube. Is that something to do with your spare time? Is that just like a COVID central? You can't run
No.
You just got to do something online?
No, I just figured I did those just for fun, just to kind of get some knowledge out there for free for the, whoever wants it, just an idea to pass some of that stuff along for people that were curious or wanted to learn more about it. So yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Awesome. So we are definitely glad you're still in the picture. Wrestling needs their heels, and you're one of the best of all time. I'm not just saying that because you're here. Literally one of the most hated people, and you got to sit with that and be like, that's what I wanted,
Yeah.
Title right there. I've been Chris Kennedy. This is my co-host, Matt. Just incredible, man. Great meeting you. Awesome interview. We will
Thank you, guys.
Tag everything. You got merch, you got Instagram, you have everything. It'll be in the comment section below. Be sure to like and subscribe.
We'd love to have you back if you ever want to.
Absolutely. Thank you. It was a pleasure, man. Thank you so much. Honestly, I had a great time.
Cool. Thank you so much. You guys have a good day.